Hey, what's up, YouTube? A lot of people have requested a real-time demonstration of my animation process and also tips on drawing people, animating people and characters. So what I have here, this is a commission I'm working on, is someone's original character, but they're going to be copying the dance from Blackpink's Lisa. Lisa is from the popular girl group Blackpink, and you can see I have my line art is not really quite done, so I'm going to be working on the line art. And you can see that I have the references here. There's the original character, and there's Lisa in the background. What I did was I kind of ripped the YouTube video. I took the frames and then I imported the frames into Krita. And I have tutorials on how to import the frames. So this is kind of a rotoscope. It's not a true rotoscope. A true rotoscope is tracing, but basically I am copying the timing and poses exactly of this character because that's what the person who commissioned me requested. He wanted his character doing Lisa's dance. So I got about 50 frames of Lisa's dance, which is really quite a lot. And I started with a sketch first. So let me play that back here. So there's the sketch. Let me bring up the opacity a bit of the sketch. So you can see I pretty much stuck with boxes and almost like a trapezoid for her hips. Um, but really, this is all about capturing the gesture, and I feel like I did a great job capturing the movement here. I did cut the dance in the middle of it and sort of split it so that it loops. It loops well. So I added a little turn at the end. You can see at the very end here, this extra turn I added to reset to frame 1. So frame 52 and frame 0 are the same frame. And you can see that she kind of turns into a loop. And I'm not really sure how smooth the loop is. Like if I go right here and let it replay, let it rewind or loop back. It's pretty decent. So you can see the movement there, and then it loops. So it's not bad. It's not really perfect, but it's good enough for the purpose of my animation. So let me bring back the reference. And I usually what I do is on the first frame, I pretty much try to finish the line art. Even here, it looks like I made a mistake. So let me just fix that real quick. So I have, according to the character model, this part right here, her hand is kind of like a just the thumb. Not the rest of the hand is not really fingerless, but the glove and the thumb are supposed to be fingerless. So I can take this color and make this red, and then I can use the fill tool right there. So and also right here. So let me reduce the opacity of the sketch layer again. So usually I lay out the first frame so that I know what to match, what type of quality to match, and then for all the subsequent frames, I just slowly but surely grind away at the line. So that's what I'm going to be doing the demo today. Um, and you can see I have all the references available. I have the dance behind it, and I also have all the other frames act as reference. And I think that's kind of one of the good things about animation, that once you've set it up, all the drawings that you do for animation kind of like you use the other frames as reference. And that's like the beauty of onion skins, right? So if I hit O, I turn the onion skins back on. Um, so yeah, we're pretty much going to be grinding away at the lines, and you can see that when I'm animating, you really want it like individual lines to show the flow of your strokes. And some really professional animators are really good at getting the right stroke from the first try. They have a lot of line confidence because of their experience. Me, I don't always get it right, so you might see me undoing a lot. And of course, I've talked before on YouTube about how it's a habit that I want to break. And for the most part, I believe I've gotten better, but it really comes down to how accurate your lines are. And the only way to really get accurate lines is to really practice figure drawing and gesture drawing a lot. And the more you draw, the better you'll get at it. So it's really a quantity thing to get your lines to be quality. Like, even though I'm not saying you can just only grind out drawing and then suddenly be good without any study, but for the most part, me, I feel like I've studied a lot of anatomy, but I'm not really the best at executing how it should look. So yeah. So I'm gonna be grinding this out really. Legs, arms. So my goal was first to get the head in all the frames. So let's actually work on the arms now. So shoulders, arms, torso, and down. It looks like the shoulders are a bit wide here. So even if my sketch is a little bit off, I will often like correct it after I do the line art. So when I animate, I usually only do 2 passes. I do the sketch and straight into the line art. Some people do a tie down first before cleaning up into the line art, and I feel like that does produce a better result. but I do want to get these done more quickly, and I feel like for the purpose, the intention of this commission, just having a line art that's a bit messy, with broken outlines is probably still fine, because you get the movement of the dance down. And so I am animating at, this is actually 8 frames per second. Um, I feel like if considering the amount of dancing I need to, I guess rotoscope is what I'll say, even though it's not a true rotoscope. If I were to animate it at 12 or 24 FPS, and the original video was at like 20, either it was either 25 or 30 FPS. Um, yeah. So this line right here, I do want to add a bit of a smear here because she moves quickly down. So I can just kind of extend this hand like that. And you get the flow of like switching frames back and forth usually when with more experience animating too. It's kind of like those old videos of animators. I don't know if I'm showing my age here, but on Disney Channel, Cartoon Network, they would often show footage of the animators working on these things, and they would be using their hand to flip the paper back and forth, usually their left hand. And it's pretty much the same deal as what I'm doing now. I'm using my left hand to press the hotkeys to move the frames back and forth, to check out the movement, and I'm using my right hand to draw. So a lot of these drawings on the legs and arms, I try not to refer too much to the onion skins and the frames that are before and after. I try rather to guide the anatomy toward where the sketch is moving. So I can see the sketch, it kind of acts as a skeleton. And you can see this is kind of the bone of the leg here. And I just try to follow it and try to like use educated guesses on where the anatomy might fall. And it usually is quite similar to where the onion skins are anyway. But I feel like that's better. So here I am now looking at this. I'm looking at the back reference to see where exactly is the hand positioned. It looks like her hand is kind of blurred out because she is moving quickly. But if I look, she's moving quickly, her hand down, so it does get sort of blurred here, almost as if the original has a smear frame. So I will kind of draw like a smeared hand right here. And of course, this is only visible for 1 frame, so it doesn't have to be perfect. And then right here. So let me find her legs now. It's almost as if I like to use the word discover. I'm like discovering her legs. And like I said, guys, I am streaming on Twitch right now, so you will be able to see the chat if they kind of feel like chiming in with something. I'm not really listening to the chat right now though because I am recording this video for YouTube. But yeah, I'm trying to just basically discover where the legs are. Um, I'm trying to stay true to the anatomy. So yeah, it's really all about knowing the forms. And as far as like animating the movements, here I really had a guide. And maybe I'll do another video in the future where I really do an animation from scratch. I can talk about blocking in movement. But here I'm just gonna be demonstrating the actual animation of the line art. And for with animation, you really want to focus on having nice, beautiful contours, especially with an animation like this. It's really meant to be sexy. Like this is a girl dancing, and I really want to make sure that the curves of the legs and the arms, and the hips and the shoulders, that the gesture of everything flows well together. So that's like my main focus in mind as I animate this. So here she's really like rolling her hip from side to side. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves as far as the hips go. We want to focus on the torso and arms right now. My goal earlier today was to make sure the head is visible in every frame, um, and to really lock that down. Looks like I missed a face here, and even in a lot of the subsequent frames, I didn't really draw the face. I do like to. It looks like she's actually kind of closing her eyes or looking down, so I need to make sure the gesture of the eyelash is more looking downwards than upwards. If I were to draw it like this, that would be upwards. So I'm gonna try to make it so that she's looking down. instead. And maybe a little bit of the pupil there. Maybe that angle's a little bit off, make it a little bit more cat-like. There we go. So something like that. So let's keep discovering the torso and arms. Okay. Don't always need to do the hands. So this frame here does not have a reference because it's actually, where I split the frames of the dance, there's like a little skip there. And I added an extra frame to give myself a little bit better anticipation as she moves to a different move. So she's moving here, she's spinning her arms, and I adjusted it so that she moves her arms up a bit. So you can actually highlight frames in Krita. Like if I highlight this many frames using the shift click, I can uh, isolate a part that I want to loop. So that right there, you can see there's a little bit of anticipation as she pulls her elbows up to the right and then swings them to the left. So this, I needed this extra frame in order to get that anticipation looking right. So here there's two arms here. I'm kind of just trying to figure out where the anatomy is there. Armpits, hands. And plus even the original animation is kind of blurred, the way she's moving her hands because it's so fast. So I might just keep it, like in the spirit of the smear, just keep it a little bit blurry myself. Like maybe just something like that. It's a general shape of a hand with a little bit of a smear. Yeah, something like that. And give myself a little bit of indication of a thumb here. And let's see, where are her arms here? So now I'm looking at both the sketch and the background. So this is, again, not quite a true rotoscope. So I'm more looking at the sketch here. You can see this line right here is sort of the humerus bone, the arm bone. And I'm more following that than the actual image of Lisa in the background. Of course, this is a bit of a rotoscope in a way. So if you guys want a demo of like real animation from scratch, let me know in the comments, and I can probably do that when I get the chance, when I get another commission and I'm actually drawing something from scratch. Looks like I'm not sure if I put the other arm here, so I'll just kind of invent it right now. And I do want to match the angle of the original. So here we'll get a really nice arch in the back. It's not as drastic as the previous frame. This one really, she really is arching her back. Here is more subtle. So anatomy is the main thing, like making sure that the forms are falling in the right place, and you're kind of discovering them as they happen, instead of like pre-planning. Because with animation, you're dealing with physics. Like your real life physics are your reference. So um, I haven't completely visualized every single frame. That's not how it works. At least not for me. It's more that I can see the movement, and I'm sort of extrapolating where all the parts go. I don't know if that's the right word, but like discovering where the parts go, putting everything in the right spot based on the gesture. So here, yeah, I'm looking at both the sketch and the reference to see that her hand is sort of making this shape with a bit of a pinky indication there. I can even move this up a bit. So it's good to have hotkeys for your selection tools so that you can quickly make changes like that. The forearm needs to be a bit longer. So same thing, I can just move it. And that's really the great advantage of digital art. If someone was doing this traditionally, they would really have to get in there and erase lines and stuff like that, or just draw over them, have to do a second pass, etc. So here there's a bit of a shoulder move. You can see I drew some of her sleeve already. So a center line in the back. So here, back of the leg. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves in the leg, though. We're still working on her arms. And with arms and legs, you can mostly use straight lines to make sure you just really nab the gesture down. And then after the straight line, I remember where it is. So maybe I can try to define a little bit of muscle forms. You can see very, very slight curves. The limbs, arms, and legs, they're mostly straight lines because the bones are straight. And if you keep that in mind, you can pretty much get away with drawing straight lines for limbs. And it'll still look nice in animation because what you're trying to do is just capture where they're facing, what direction they're moving in. You don't have to have perfect muscle structure on these. So that arm came out a little bit far. So I'm pulling it back a little bit upwards as opposed to the sketch. And you can see you don't really have to draw every single finger either. I was talking with my stream about why anime looks the way it does. I feel like I could talk about that in a separate video, but I want to mention like uh, anime kind of looks the way it does because animators are
Chokenator
trying to really
breaks
look for
records.
shortcuts. Oh snap! I did get a raid. That's gonna be in the YouTube video. Thank you, Nadine, for the raid. I am recording a YouTube video right now for about 30 minutes. It's about 15 minutes in. Holy moly! Look at those emotes. YouTube's gonna see this. Say hello to YouTube. That's exciting. Hopefully, it'll get some YouTubers to come to my stream, or maybe I should just start streaming on YouTube itself. Who knows? But anyway, yeah. It's okay. Hi, Nadine. I'm in the middle of it, so I'm trying to not give too much attention to chat right now, so I can focus on narrating how I animate. And I'm working on this character dancing, kind of a sexy dance from Blackpink. And again, I tend to naturally like gravitate toward random parts of the body. Like as soon as I see a line that can be drawn, I'll draw it. But I need to always recenter my brain and focus on one thing at a time because I feel like with an animation, if you get too focused or if you get too caught up in the details, and this is just like with drawing and painting in general, if you get too caught up in the details too early, you kind of lose the spirit of the entire thing. You lose the sort of it's like the entire thing has a bit of a gesture. The whole entire time span has a gesture. I mean, because you're animating a movement, so you can see there's a bit of a hip shake here, and I want to make sure that the forms are consistent in size. Because if you just animate straightforward instead of pose to pose, it's easy to lose the size of each thing. So I did have to go back and forth throughout this animation, make sure the head is the same size in all the frames. Of course, it makes it easier for me to get the timing right because I am copying the frames of a reference. So the timing in this, getting the timing right in this piece was not really a challenge. It's more that I had to set it up in such a way that I could copy the frames. And I feel like this. I am doing this for work because it is a commission for someone's original character, and I am copying the dance. Hopefully, I don't get in trouble for that. Uh, but of course, that is what was requested. The requester said, "Can you please draw my original character doing this specific dance?" And I obliged. So I don't know if this counts as like copyright infringement or whatever. Probably not though. Maybe, who knows. Anyway, I can see again that the hand came out too far in the sketch, so I'm gonna pull it up a bit and I'll still match the direction of the hand, and again I'll draw a bit of indication of a palm and a little bit of pinky there. It's all about the direction. Excuse me. So you can see it is very gradual. There's not a ton getting done. Of course, it really depends on the complexity of the character design. This character design is quite elaborate, I would say. So there's really a lot. And plus, getting a body right with this style. Like, I could do a much simpler style where, I just do, hips like that. And then I draw the arms in sort of straight lines. But, since she's doing a dance, like I said, I really want to get the curves. I could just do something like this with really simple lines, or even something like this, you know, chest there, and then arms and legs, just mostly straight lines. But that kind of defeats the purpose of a someone's favorite original character doing a sort of sexy dance here. So I don't want to defeat the purpose of that. So as you can see, I am kind of focused on getting the curves right, making sure the muscles of the legs are originating from the right spots. And you can see I'm undoing because I just feel like the line isn't right. There are often times where I feel like I undo lines that are just probably fine, but it is sort of the bane of a lot of digital artists, to undo too much. But I have watched other pro animators stream, and I feel like with animation, it has to be a fast and flowy line. And so if you get it wrong, it's totally forgivable to undo. But it makes me wonder, how fast can animation really be done if we were really accurate. For example, one of my favorite artists, his name is Kim Jung-gi. He's a illustrator. I haven't really seen him do any animation, but I'm sure he could. But he has extremely accurate line confidence, in the sense that he draws very elaborate pieces in all sorts of perspectives with detailed characters, animals. So there's a couple of things. The first secret of Kim Jung Gi's work is like his mental library. His mental library is like really gigantic, and he just simply remembers a lot of the things he draws, like the references sort of in his head. Um, and So he draws from that, but he's able to also to take those references and really rotate them in his head. So for me, I don't quite have that ability. But it's not only that he has that ability, because I have it in some on some level, but really his skill is just pure experience and pure quantity of quality hours of practice. So that guy probably draws, at least 8 to 10 hours a day. Who really knows how much he draws? I just know he's constantly drawing, and his pen moves so naturally, and he's just hitting strokes that are just so accurate. And the great thing about him, probably the most famous thing about him, is that he doesn't really sketch anymore. I'm sure he used to, but now he just goes in and just draws the forms very close to perfectly. So for me, imagine I'm just trying to imagine if animators had that skill, animation would go much faster. But as it stands, not a lot of animators really have that skill, and the best animators are the ones working for anime industries in Japan. And I know that currently the web generation of animators are doing really well in finding work from abroad and doing work for Japanese anime. You see it a lot in Boruto has had a lot of foreign animators outside of Japan work in their fight scenes. And there's been a lot of that in like Black Clover, and a lot of animes are getting sort of independent artists to work on certain scenes. I would love to have that kind of work, but of course, here I am doing Twitch alerts with sexy female characters dancing. But I feel like that's totally fine. I'm still experiencing the joy of animation, and I want to share this skill with you guys. The joy of animation. I feel kind of like Bob Ross right now. Maybe this can become sort of a Bob Ross show, just me doing live, not really time lapses, but demonstrations. So here, this is very slight movement. It's sort of almost like a rotation, if I look at the original. So it's very slight. So her torso is moving. Her arm, so her right shoulder scooted forward, and this arm was brought this way, but it's still making mostly the same pose, sort of a saluting pose, or like looking in the distance pose. I'm looking at you. So let's keep her pinky up. So her hand rotates a bit too. Let's move her pinky this way. Um, and it's common for a lot of animators to keep the ring finger and middle finger together. I believe their tendons and joints are like pretty well connected, so they often do move together. It's oftentimes pretty difficult to move your ring finger independently of your other fingers. So artists have a tendency to keep them together. This hand also slightly rotates, so I am looking at the reference and also the sketch and also the onion skin. So I have all these stimuli visible at once. There's the sketch layer right here. the red and green lines of the onion skin and the original reference pose that I'm copying. Interesting that I pointed to her butt right there. That was not intentional. Anyway, I'm using all those things at once. Maybe not perfectly simultaneously in my head, but I am. They're all visible at once, and I'm using them whenever I need to like see some information. Because I'm not just looking at the black lines that I'm drawing. And when you're animating, you can't really afford to just look at the lines that you're drawing. You kind of have to think about gesture and like the picture as a whole, because you're trying to capture movement and not just a single image. So there's a little bounce right there. So there's a little bit of squash and stretch here. You can see I'm gonna sort of elongate the torso here with a long stroke, and then as she comes down, there's a little bit of stretch, so it kind of comes in that way. So now I'm thinking about muscles because in the gesture I just kind of gave a general idea of where the hips and butt might be, but now I'm thinking about musculature, and I don't. I this is where study really comes in because a lot of these lines I'm doing for like the legs and arms, I have a decent familiarity with, but when it comes to like hips and torso and back, I feel like I need a lot of work still on that. Um, Studying anatomy, looking at reference books, looking at I think Pinterest is really great. Pinterest is almost like it's a reference book on its own. And it I know Pinterest already has like tons of images from reference books. So Pinterest is a really good resource for maybe it is that high. I don't know any fancy terms for this part of the body, but maybe that line is a bit higher. Yeah. Okay. So I am again following the bones of the legs shown in the sketch, almost like a skeleton. And when I think about a femur, I think about all the muscles that surround it. So there's this one, this one in the middle. There's a lot of muscles there. There's the kneecap here, and then there's some more forms here. I don't know the names of everything, but I have studied a bit of anatomy so that I can sort of remember where all the pieces go. So this is a somewhat anatomically correct leg, right? Maybe and this is adjusted best based on your how muscular the character is and stuff like that. So I'm keeping all this in mind, and it's not just the front view, but like all around the view. And this is why knowing the forms, 3D forms is so important for animation because you're moving a 3D object around and you have to know it at every angle, every possible angle. For example, if I were to draw her leg from above or from below, let's say, the knee would be like right here. I would want to foreshorten it, and I would have to know like the shapes of all the parts of the leg, even coming down this way. So it would be something like this, and then a foot going up here, right? So I drew that somewhat fast, um, but that really comes down to practice and knowledge of the forms, 3D forms. So that's really what it's all about. And if there's any one takeaway you guys need from this video, it's memorize like have 3D forms of things in your mental library and practice rotating them in your head and translating that to the page or the canvas. Like being able to draw one thing at many different angles. I think that's one of the most important skills, not just in drawing. I mean, excuse me, not just in animation, but for drawing in general. It's a really useful skill, and that's why they say one of the best exercises is to draw a bunch of boxes, a bunch of 3D boxes, and draw a bunch of them at different angles, because that really gets your mind thinking about what does this box look like at a different angle. And if you can do that with a box, and then you can do it with a cylinder, then you can do it with like a pyramid and a cone, and then eventually, as you practice that skill, you should be able to do it with a human body. So you can see a lot of undos here. Again, not the healthiest sign of line confidence, but enough. I just hope I'm becoming more accurate over time. That's my goal, and also my fear. I fear that I'm just gonna be an undoer forever, but my goal and my hope is that in in practicing this skill, my lines can become more accurate. So here, in the transition, we'll keep moving her arms. So I have to find, sort of discover her elbow. Where's that? Ridge muscle, the forearm muscles. I don't remember all the names of all the forearm muscles except the ridge muscle. And ridge muscle is not even the formal term for it. So a little bit of incorporating a little bit of costume here. So that's about 30 minutes, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. That was my demo for now, and we'll see the progress. Oh, it's always satisfying to look back, check the progress on this. So I'm gonna save right now. Always save before you play back, especially in Krita, because Krita has a tendency of crashing during playback sometimes. But right now, I'll show you guys the animation. I'll take out the Blackpink reference, and we'll see in isolation how the animation is looking. So it's looking really nice, and you can see it hasn't made a ton of progress since when I started the video in a half an hour, but it's coming together slowly but surely. As the contours will come together, and then I'll throw in the costume. Then I'll throw in the secondary animation, which is her coat here and her hair. Those two are the things that are flowing after the movement. So the movement will come first, and then the secondary animation will come next. So that's pretty much my entire process for drawing these alert animations. Um, and maybe in the future we can do another demo of me doing a movement from scratch and not just movement from copied movement, almost like a rotoscope. Yeah. So that's it, guys, and I hope you enjoyed that. I'll see you guys next time in the next video. Bye bye.